Okay, so the ID was not displaying. See, it's only giving a string. So there is no error, syntax error or any other. So we need to create a route to get this ID in a web and create Control L, Control Shift D without an ID. And will be the same company.active. Okay, here we are just dumping our ID. Let's get to our browser, refresh, and see we have an encrypted ID. And when I click on it, so we are getting an ID of our company. See, we have a 2. Okay, so we have now get an ID and we have to activate this company. So because the user has multiple companies, so when it select its company, so all the data will be shown, departments, categories, budget, expense. So all the data that has in that company will be activated. So that's why we are creating this dynamic company layout. So a user can create multiple companies, and when it selects this company, all particular data will be shown in budgets, periods, and expense, and their user, and also reports. Okay. First, let's check our oath is included, input is included. Yes. Okay, let's change to back to company. And here, this ID is company ID. Let's remove or comment this. Let me comment this because you can use when you have a source, so you can use it. Okay, let's have the now user ID. So user ID we can access, we know we can use auth facade and the function helper function user, and that user we can access its ID. So this users and ID that are we are getting. Okay, user ID, and we so after user ID by input get helper method, so we are getting a company ID, and when we have a company ID we are decoding URL, then we are decoding base64 encryption, so it will be in a company ID. So let's find this company ID in our company model, and we will kept in a C name is equal to, so see that we have used this reference to our companies. So companies, remember we have in an instructor, so we have instantiated our company model to this company. So this is the benefit of giving instantiating in a constructor. Okay, now we will find this company ID that we are accessing from our company's view, and we will find it using a in our company model. So to find a helper method, find, and what to find, yes, we will give a company ID. This company ID we will that we are accessing, and we will give to find in our model. So in our model we have a company table, so this ID will be find here, and to find, and after find, and let's check die dump again, and see we have all the C $sign C name, save it, come to browser refresh and just pass it and see. So when we pass our company ID from our user, So we have in a company model, and table is a company. So we have a data. So where it is, it will be fillables. Uh, so now YD1 has a online runner company and created all the fields that we have in our data companies table. We can access it. If I go to a second company, a fund tech, so we in an array is a company ID is 2 and user ID is 1. So and a font tag. So that's why we are now getting ID from company and also matching it this ID in our company model. You remove this. When we have a company ID, also we need to find a user ID, the currently logged in user. So we are getting the ID of currently logged in user, and also we need to find that ID in from user table. So users is equal to this. Remember that we have this users, we have reference it in our constructor users, and find to what the user ID here that we want to find in a user table. So user ID, find it, and let's write down this users. Okay, so this users, find user ID, user and item. So now we have now in a user model, and it will use a table users, and the field that it is find. Uh, so this user is now ID is 1 and parent ID is 0, Rana, and all the information that we have in our user table. Okay, so we are good to go. Remove this. Okay, now we have a company ID and we have a user ID, that both the fields we have found in our tables, and the user ID we are getting from currently logged in user, and the company ID we are getting from our view company list in our view. Okay, so now let me check you the company ID in our user table is blank. So company ID is blank. First one because it's blank, and we will set it to 0 or null. Because we will update it from our method. So null, save it. What wrong? Null, save it. Why it is not? Let it save it to 0. Okay, now there is no company ID in our user table. So now we set the company ID that we are accessing from our company model, and we set users, uh, users. So this user variable, so user, and in user table there is a company ID field, and we will set the new company ID that we are accessing from our company view, and we will set it to company ID. So close this statement, and also we will set the company name. So users, company, company name will be the new company name. C name, and we are accessing a name. So in our user, there is a company name. So company name is null. By default, when we create our migration, the both field company ID and company name was null. Now we are activating our company. So we have access our ID, we have accessed the ID, and we have find the company ID and all the fields that we have access this company ID. So all the fields this company ID will be in a C name. In a C name, we are only referencing to C name only name, and it will be allocate to the user's company name, and the company ID that we're accessing from here will be allocated to users table into company ID, and this will become uh, active company. Okay, now simple users, we will use a save method to update our save, and it will update the record in database. So when we save it, we will return uh, redirect. So we will return a redirect to root, or mm, okay, redirect to root, and the root is company dot index, and with message, flash message that we will display with message, and message, remember the errors that we have created two, one for error and one for success. So successful we have used message. So this with message, and the message custom message will be new company, and will be use string, and will be concatenate, and there will be selected, close that statement, and here we will pass the company name which is now selected. So we can pass C name only a name. So okay, save it. So it goes to our root company.index. We come back to our browser, refresh. So let's select this one and see new company online dana is selected. Okay, let's give an space, new company, save, come to browser, refresh, and now see new company Afantech selected. Okay, and but the company right here is not changed, and we have to, so the background color is now, you see that we have set in our style sheet. So which company is selected, its background color will be changed, and it's all depend on your database. So if we know, now we can see the company ID and the company name is null. When I refresh, both the fields are changed. So currently company ID 2 and company name Afantech is selected. If I go to a online Rana, so in our database, let's refresh, and here company ID is 1 and company name is online Rana selected. And now we will have to change to in our navigation bar. So let's change it to our navigation quickly. So how we can give in our navigation, control P underscore in under partial we have a nav.blade, and in the nav.blade we have manually pass the nav bar header, and under that we have anchor tag, nav brand, and heading style. So let's remove this and let's pass quickly. Let me copy the code because I am running out of time. Mm, indent control right bracket key, control plus right bracket. So if auth user, if auth currently logged in user company id not is equal to null, agar it is not null, if it is not null, then auth user company name display. So you see in our database, if auth user company id is not is equal, if this company id is not is equal to null, if there is a value, so then display the value of company name. So we can display the auth user company name. Else trans app dot title, and the title will be default. So that the value that we have sending from our controller. If we go to our index, so we are sending the title app dot companies dash title and with the field name title. And here we are just giving app dot not title. Let's change it to our app dot company's title. Where it is, paste it. So app dot company's title, and by default the company title, let me change it into our app, and the company's title default smart expense keeping. So save it and come to our browser. Let's refresh the page. So when we change it, so you see the company name is changed. A font tag, when I click on online, the company name is online. If I change to value from here to 0, and where it is, so company ID 0 and the company ID blank null. So save it, and when this is the case, so let's see what is the title. So the title is smart expense keeping, and it breaks our application. Let's check, and let's change it to smart expense keeping and refresh. So smart expense keeping, but it is breaking our application. So we will fix that issue in the next video, and let's change to our online Rana, and it will be okay. And if I go to a font tag, it is changed, and the value in database will be also changed. You see, okay. Stay tuned.